This is the MFG Monkey podcast. We sit down with leaders and innovators in the industry to talk about manufacturing, business, and the stories behind their successes. I'm your host, Dustin McMillan, owner and founder of McMillan Co. Welcome, Josh. How are you, buddy?
I am doing great, Dustin. Glad to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. We had a conversation over the phone a couple weeks ago, and I think today will be fun.
Yeah.
I'm on the podcast with Josh, the founder of Bravo Team, and the I really think your company is awesome. Your first topic that you wanted to talk about is designing the impossible, how to build machines that don't exist yet. And I'm like, hell yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, great. It's one of my favorite subjects. So
Yeah.
I think, designing machines that don't exist is really, for us, it's design,
Mm-hmm.
applied to machines. And we design with a bunch of engineers. There's about 30 of us. And we've never designed the same thing twice. And so
That's
we
awesome.
are always kind of entering the unknown for the customers. And when I say unknown, doesn't mean we don't know what we're doing. It means unknown in the sense that, there's, for so a customer might say, hey, I need this process to be automated. There's no machines out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of Legos you can go build from. A lot of integrators do that. They just kind of, there's a lot of off the shelf stuff you can use to build things. But where our real niche is, we design things that don't exist. Even if there's no Legos for them, we
Mm-hmm.
can make the Legos too.
Yeah.
Um, so that's
No,
that's what we mean by designing the impossible. How to design machines that don't exist, and obviously, um, if there's too much uncertainty, then uh, all the engineers are can be terrified. If there's
mm-hmm.
if everything is too prescriptive, then it takes a little bit of the fun out of it. And so what we like is the projects we find a lot of fun in are those that we know are going to be hard, that we know they're going to be challenging,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but we aren't afraid of them because we have enough domain knowledge or whatever. And it's almost like proving to yourself that you still got it, if you would. So
Right.
there's a little bit of that. But then, at the end of the day, good engineers will solve engineering problems by
Mm-hmm.
applying the laws of physics well, through good design practice. And
Yeah.
so it's been a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and I have a lot of stories
I'm sure.
along the way.
Well,
Yeah.
before we get too far into this, your background is awesome. You have your PhD, you have your PE, you were in the army. So tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I all those things are true. So when
That's
I was
cool.
younger, I I wanted to be the guy that could make things,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody told me that the engineers were the ones who made stuff, and so I said, "Oh, I want to be an engineer." Um, and for me, it was a little bit more challenging because of my high school situation was not at all normal, but somehow made it into the engineering school. And at first I didn't even know there's different types of engineers. In fact, not long before I went to school, so I had to pick.
Yeah.
And somebody told me that mechanical engineers, they're the ones who design just about anything, machines and hardware and stuff. And I would say I'm much more of like a visual, like hardware kind of physical world
Mm-hmm.
kind of guy. And so we picked mechanical engineering, and I went to Georgia Tech, which I didn't even know was a good school. I just grew up in Georgia. I was very naive, but anyway, I found myself there, and it was hard. And so I kind of decided to stay in school a little longer because I wanted to master some of the
Mm-hmm.
subjects that I felt like I didn't really have mastery of. I was also very interested in research at Georgia Tech. It's a big research institution and a huge manufacturing research uh, hub in the Southeast,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of deep connections to a lot of labs. And I managed to get into an undergraduate research group, and we were doing some non-contact uh, force measurement with lasers and Bragg diffraction gratings, and uh, I just realized there's all this stuff I just don't have any idea. I don't know anything, and
Mm-hmm.
so it kind of just became this adventure to try to understand it all. And for me, what I wanted to know is like I wanted to I wanted to know everything I would need to know to be able to make anything I wanted to make. And of course, we don't live long enough for that because, even if I get pretty far down the road for machine design and mechanical engineering and controls and manufacturing and signal processing, like, I mean, I haven't even scratched the surface on like surface chemistry and the details of making alloys. I mean, it never
Mm-hmm.
ends. There's no end
Sure.
to it. And we need a lot of people to do, to go deep in a lot of these things. But I would say where I really ended up lingering is really on the signal systems and controls. Um, and all the problems that I worked on were manufacturing related problems. Along the way, I was lucky enough to go to Clemson for my master's. My advisor became the director for ICAR, which is the International Center for Automotive Research, and I went with him after I got out of the Army, which we can come back to. And he, as a director of ICAR, I got to see all these new systems put in. They have a 7-post shaker for noise, vibration, and harshness, and they have hemianechoic chamber, and a RF chamber, and now they even have more stuff. And so it's pretty fascinating journey. And while at Clemson and being exposed to all those labs, I was also exposed to a professor named Josh Summers, who's now a professor in Texas in design. And at Georgia Tech, I was exposed to David Ullman's book, The Mechanical Design Process. And then in grad school, I was able to take a few more like design classes. And at the time, I'm like, oh, I'm an engineer. Like this whole design research is a little fuzzy. You know, how do you get the most out of people, and what size should a group be, and how do you deal with design uncertainty? And then I realized, boy, you know, well, even if you could solve all the physical problems, now we have all these like interpersonal dynamics and all these other things. And it's also another problem, and it's a design problem. And if you look at it, all of business is a design problem. In fact, anything we're trying to do that's different from what is, I guess it is a design problem. And so I guess I got a little bit lost in the, the whole design thinking space a little bit, and then decided that I wanted to be a professor because I really wanted to have the option to teach. So I said I'd go back to the Army. I did join the Army in 1999. Georgia Tech was going from quarters to semesters, and I had enough time to go to basic training and advanced training, AIT, and then get back before the fall semester. And that would give me, I think, a little over $300 a month for going to drill 1 weekend a month. And then I would go to my 2-week training every year and get a little bit more money. And I was pretty broke. I didn't have any money, and I served coffee at the Starbucks there. And then I got my Army money, and it was just enough for me to kind of make it through school. And then, of course, during 9/11, shortly thereafter, I ended up my graduating semester getting sent to Iraq for a year. So I had to drop all my classes.
Wow.
My wife and I were just married. We were in family housing. She had to move out of family housing. And then I spent a year in Iraq. I was a fueler. So it was a 77 Foxtrot. That was the MOS, which is your military occupational specialty. And then got back from Iraq and still had to finish my bachelor's degree while my wife finished her master's and had a baby and got a job teaching and bought a house. So I came back, to finish my undergrad, and my wife was she had kept on plugging along. And then we decided to go to grad school. So then we sold our house in Atlanta, went to Clemson, and that's where I was exposed to iCar, some of these fascinating machines and professors, and really a lot more of the uh, design philosophy, and then stayed on, finished my PhD in automated toolpath planning for CNC machines. And then I left academia in 2021 to do what I'm doing now, which is Bravo Team, which is a engineering design consulting firm where we just help people design what they need, pretty much anything that they need.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. There's a couple things that you talked about in there, and that I want to touch base on. One is, um, you mentioned that your high school, uh, whatever wasn't ideal, which is always interesting, and we have quite a few students that listen to this. So I do want to come back to that if you're
Yeah.
willing to talk about that at all, and because I grew up in a maybe a similar way, and then the other was kind of shocking. So when you got deployed, your wife had to move out of the housing. Was that
Yeah, you have to have an enrolled student to be in family housing, and it
mm.
seems like a pretty benign, you know.
So even though you were married, that didn't qualify her to stay there, even though you
She was
were
going to Georgia State,
okay,
and for her master's at the time,
okay,
and so and they were great. I mean, the housing department at Georgia Tech. I was a RA earlier on.
I got you. Okay,
Um,
yeah, I was just kind of I
Everybody
don't
was
know something
great. It's just
triggered.
kind of, it's a state school,
Yeah,
and they're not as flexible as some
mm,
of the non-state schools.
I got you.
Everybody has to be treated the same, and
Yeah,
so.
I was thinking you were in family housing with the army. That's
Oh
correct.
yes, what's ironic is that where we were staying were efficiencies off of 10th Street that were built in the 50s, because the universities realized that all of these veterans were now eligible for the first VA benefits
Mm-hmm.
after Vietnam, and so they built the 10th Street housing, and so we were staying in some of the same places that probably, some of the early Vietnam vets stayed in when they
Oh,
came
cool.
through at Georgia Tech. So
Yeah, very cool. And then I don't want to really dig into this, but I just think it's really interesting because we do, I one of the things that I really enjoy doing is working with students. And there's a there's a school near me called High Point, and it's a career center, and we actually have a couple machines there right now that the I bought used, and they need to be qualified and get up and running, and things. And so we took the machines over there just to have them work on them, and the students are super excited about it. They're going to be able to see them in our facility running and all those things. And there's so many students there that don't have an ideal home life,
mm.
and I think that a lot of kids might get caught up in that, and get so fixated on that, and maybe not have the right mindset where even though they might not have the perfect home life, it doesn't mean that they can't be successful later in life.
Oh yeah,
And
and sometimes those of us with the worst
yeah,
origin story are the most successful, because the hard things that we face in life and business sometimes don't
yeah, it's like
really
yeah,
even come close to the hard things that you
exactly,
have
yeah,
to overcome in your childhood,
yeah,
you know. And most of it's a lot of it's emotional, right? It's all in our
hmm,
head. It's like when we
yeah,
feel less than, or our shame robs us of our power and makes us
yeah,
question if we can do things. It's easy to drift away,
yeah,
to slip away. And I think, yeah, just giving somebody a machine and showing them, hey, this is cool. Somebody designed this, like, and it
hmm,
it runs. It runs 24/7. And of course, we're all fascinated by different things.
hmm,
I think, being a pastry chef would be pretty cool, but I think, you know, designing machines that move fast and bend metal and heat things
yeah,
are a little bit cooler,
Yeah.
and so I think we're all a little, wired to be fascinated by certain things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, high school for me, like my mom got sick when I was 13, and she had multiple myeloma, and we were homeschooled. And
Mm.
so we had a great childhood because, our mom nurtured us, took us to the park, you know, and we had a pretty, like, I guess, organic human development in the suburbs of Atlanta. And then when she got sick, though, she was pretty much down for a couple of years, and then she ended up dying while giving birth to my
Mm.
brother, who was the eighth in the family
Oh,
at the
wow.
time. And then 4 months later, my dad remarried a woman who had two kids. Who had two kids, and then they had five more together. So I actually have 14
Holy
brothers and
cow.
sisters. And so um, my schooling changed quite dramatically, and I would say that I ended up quite naive and underprepared for an engineering career. Uh, but I could say that at least with 13 years of nurture and a good mom, at least I had something to draw
Hmm.
from uh, to get into to stay in school. But I think a lot of people feel like this. Maybe they go to like maybe a more rural school or school that's less academically challenging, and they find themselves in a class and they don't really understand what's going on. That really was me. So I was the guy who just was lost for a while. And I had to go back and had to learn things that most people I think already knew at the time. And
Hmm.
so it was a real struggle, but the real struggle was two things. I mean, I had to work a lot, but then I had to work a lot when other people didn't have to work so much. So I had to work a lot and then not tell myself that I'm just an idiot that's dumb, slower, all the head trash that
Oh,
we
sure.
get, when we have the opportunity to second guess ourselves.
Yeah.
But I'm a big fan of the hero's journey, and like using it as narrative for your life. And a big theme of the hero's journey, and whether or not we care about the hero's journey or not, it's the one of the themes is you got to find the guide. And
Mm.
we see it
Okay.
all throughout literature. It's the one who gives you the amulet or that the special potion or the sword or whatever, so you can kind of make it through the next challenge. And I was fortunate enough to meet a couple guides. One guy he owned a vending company, and I ended up working for him a couple days a week when my mom was sick, filling vending machines and
Hmm.
rebuilding old vending machines. I got a lot of stories. Coffee machines that haven't been serviced in a long time are pretty nasty. There was worms and moths and things
Oh,
like that.
wow.
They were old, they were out of service, but I just had to clean them up and bring them back into service.
I
So
got you. Okay.
not in anything we would feed the customer, but um, so we stayed busy, and uh, I had people. Everybody needs people, and fortunately, I think things could have gone real different from me. But uh, his name was Lee Campbell. We lost him not long ago. And then when I got into Georgia Tech, eventually, um, I had a roommate named Sung Hwan Liu, who was a Korean guy who already had a mechanical engineering degree from Korea and
Mm.
wanted another degree. And fortunately, I was his roommate, and uh, he helped me a lot to plug a lot of those gaps in knowledge. And so I've done a lot, but only because I kind of kept on moving. And when I needed help, fortunately, somebody was there to
Sure.
say, "Hey, buddy, don't you want to do it this way?" So
Yeah. No, I think your story is fantastic, and the things that you're doing are relative to what we're doing. Um, in our facility, we're the user. There's no way that I I have the aptitude to design, build, and create a machine that we need. But we find ourselves in situations quite a bit where somebody will come to us with a problem, and they want us to co-pack for them or blend or do whatever, and we have to figure out how to make it economical. And a lot of times that now it's turning into custom solutions um, where they bring us, something that needs to go in a box, and it's not a normal widget, and there needs to be a lot of these things go in a box in a quick time, and they need to be counted and things like that. So it's fascinating to me to just be, to help solve these problems, and team up with folks like you guys, where you have the knowledge to actually make that
Oh
happen.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And
When we bring a good problem like that to the team, it's almost
yeah,
like somebody smacked a pinata, and there's a bunch
yeah,
of candy all over the ground. It's like all the engineers are like, "Oh, what's this? Oh, what's this? Or what's this
yeah.
project?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a real life project that we're getting ready to do right now. We had 3 semi truckloads of stuff show up at our place today, and
Oh
it's
boy.
all, yeah, it's all very manual today. People are counting it and putting them in boxes, and we have to figure out a way to automate it because the customers just exploding. They've grown 300% in the last couple years, and
Yeah.
doesn't it doesn't look like it's going to stop. So it's, those things are fun for me. Makes it fun to go to work. It makes it fun to see people on my team really light up, and then when we, engage with a group like you guys to actually solve that problem, it's again fun to see it actually work.
Oh yeah. I mean, but that's the beauty of manufacturing. I mean, I bet
Hmm.
conversion is a lot of fun too because you're getting all these raw materials in, and
Hmm.
you just send them through the machines, and you increase their value.
Yeah.
The customer's happy to pay for the improved material
Hmm.
and a form factor or whatever. And it's if you've never been into a manufacturing facility and you have some perception that they're just like old and dirty and people in front of machines, you're missing the magic
Oh yeah.
because like even the simple operations, if you understand that people that made these machines and understood the physics, and there was some great, historically we've had some very fascinating humans, in human history to get us to
Hmm.
this place, and the things we take for granted. I mean, machining productivity has improved over 100 times, over
Hmm.
100x in like the last 60 years, just because of material advances and carbides and all these things. And
Hmm.
it's what's funny is that as people we think, oh, uh, the world that is where we got. This is
Right.
where we've gotten to. Well, our kids are probably not going to stay impressed with us if they see other opportunities, and before long we're going to be the old people, and uh like who knows what they're going to do. And I just think it's uh it's funny how in manufacturing sometimes just because this is how we've done something, and it's still not necessarily how we'll do it later,
Yeah.
and it's constantly evolving. But then we also have machines that have been in service for 30 years that are still running because they were designed well the first time.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's we bought a machine it's 20 plus years old, and it still works great. It's all
yeah,
stainless steel. It's a very simple, very simple machine, and it'll that thing will be running well after I'm dead. And a motor might go out or a bearing might go out or something, but we take care of it. That thing's going to be in operation for another,
yeah,
many decades. And it is neat. You go into an old steel mill, and there's machinery in old steel mills that are still operational that, made things in World War II, World War I. And it's pretty fascinating to me. And that, and you're right. And there are still dirty operations. Steel mills are one of them. They've definitely cleaned up over the years. But, like one of my best buddies owns a tubing mill. And, while that's a loud, dirty facility, you're taking flat stock and you're rolling it and you're welding it and forming it. Um, it, it- he has his facility's so clean you could eat off the floor, and it's just everyone's, they're clean, and it's an oily, dirty, loud process, and it's awesome. It's bright, everything's white inside, except for the the weld. And it's so cool to watch it and all the automation that goes into it, and just all the technology and how that has evolved. And they still have the very first line that his dad put in when they started the company, and it still produces tubing today. And it's really, really neat to see, you know somebody created this machine decades ago, and it's still making money today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. And that's kind of what our dream is too. I mean,
Hmm.
when we're solving a problem for a customer, we, we want them to have that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And the kids, like you brought up, with things like AI, and we just get better and more efficient at solving problems. The more we progress, and we're just able to solve problems more efficiently today than what we were 20 years ago.
Oh
And
yeah.
with AI, I believe, and everyone's on this AI kick, but it's not going away.
Oh
But it
no.
definitely helps, and it helps create, and it helps um, identify problems that we might not recognize before. And I think it's a great tool.
Yeah, we do too. It'll be fascinating to see as it makes its way up in skill levels.
Hmm.
A lot of the low level things that we've done, we definitely are leveraging AI. You know, like I think I took a list of events and times just from a piece of paper the other day and copied and pasted in ChatGPT, and I said, hey,
Hmm.
uh, create a Google formatted calendar like this, uh, and I was able to import, and all the events were there. And if I wanted all those events in the calendar, it would have taken me or somebody a lot longer to do that. And
Oh,
then the
absolutely.
question is like, well, what does that free us up to do? And
Hmm.
what can we do with the rest of that time? And so I think that's whereas we think about like manufacturing and engineering and design and fabrication, it'll be fascinating to see what solutions people come up with for uh, those particular applications. For
Hmm.
example, like if you're if you're if you're a if you're a steel mill and you're trying to maybe play around in the lab with some different alloys, or you want to get a little bit different properties out of something, and there's a university that has created this AI model that takes all of the different um, available materials that you have now to alloy elements. It's like, can they make small suggestions for improvements that could be tested and allow you to capture like emergent properties from
Hmm.
things that are not a cumulative sum of their individual properties. And who knows
Sure.
what's possible, but definitely keeping an eye on it. One of the things that I would love for AI to solve now is to take a design from CAD and automatically generate drawings with the proper GD&T. That would be a nice, like, seems like low hanging fruit to solve.
I need to hook you up with my buddy Brooks. He owns an AI company, and they program um, AI like that. So maybe that's you guys
Yeah,
could work together
love
on
to
that.
meet him. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and I'll definitely I'll make that introduction to you guys, because he's always looking for different things. And man, I can't remember what his company is. Um, I want to see if I can look it up real quick. But they're in they're in the Pittsburgh area, and their company is CRO, problem solutions is a very simple name for their company. So I
Okay.
don't know how I
Yeah.
didn't remember that, but yeah, I'll hook you and Brooks up. And he's I was really against AI for such a long time, and then he got me on the phone, and captured 3 hours of my time, educating me on chat, and I've used it every day since. And he just turned me on to an email solution, and now I can rip through my emails in minutes, where it would bog
Ooh.
down hours out of my day.
Oh,
Um,
what is that?
Superhuman.
Oh, yeah,
There's
I've heard of that. Does
yeah,
it
the
it works
super
for you?
I love it. There's
Okay.
Superhuman, and if you're a Google guy, if you're
Yeah, we're a
using Google,
workspace team. Yeah.
there's another one that he referred to me, and it is I'm looking it up in our text here. It is called Superhuman or Shortwave.
Shortwave.
Yep. So Shortwave, if I remember when I looked it up, it was primarily a Google email application, and Superhuman works with Office. So that's why I chose Superhuman over that. And and it's awesome. My email's at zero. Like I have one email in my inbox right now, and it just came in, and it's freed up so many hours of my time. It helps me follow up. It's just it's awesome. The
Yeah,
only thing that it
it's
did that
earned
I
your trust.
yeah, it has earned my trust now. It did one thing that was kind of weird is one of my best friends and my neighbor sent me um something to look at, and it was a link, and it tagged it as spam. But we had emailed back and forth many times before that, but it put him in email jail. And
Maybe he doesn't think the content of your friend and neighbor is quality enough.
yeah, he's an engineer. He's a mechanical engineer actually. So it was one line with a link, and that
Okay.
was it. There was no context at all. So it looked
Yeah.
very spammy. And I think he sent me like three in a row with
Yeah.
different links to things to check out. So I but he called me. He's like, "Have you seen those emails? You haven't responded." And I'm like, "Nope, I haven't seen them." So I had to go in, and they were auto archived, so
Ah,
marked as marketing emails. So, but
well,
that
it
was really
sounds like
the only
that's
issue
the
that
only
I've found
time.
so
Yeah.
far.
I'll have to
But
give it a try.
yeah, and it's
I've toyed
it's
around with it, but it's just that trust because I have that, because I'm running the company. It's like
hmm
that fear that you miss that one email from the customer or whatever
yep.
that you really need to be. Uh,
Yeah, well, and that's why I looked it up, because I hired somebody to help, like a human to help with my email, and that didn't work. And and then I missed a couple emails just because the volume of emails that I get that are total
yeah.
trash that don't mean anything were bogging down everything, even though I have like so many rules and
Well, they
folders
figured out
and
how to get around it, and so they use
yeah,
a subdomain of the company's domain, and then they get their uh, MX and DX or SPF and whatever those records are right. That's why you get a bunch of these emails that are like, "Hey, Dustin, not sure if you had a chance to read the email from Tuesday," or
right,
"Hey, Dustin, my you know my super famous wonderful person that's above me asked me to reach out to you," or
right.
and they're paid to basically get that lead gen, and so
Mhm.
that's kind of how I've seen the market go. And it's
Yeah.
kind of fascinating because they've gotten around the automated spam. So now we
Mhm.
actually have real humans that are trying to come up with clever sayings
Yeah.
for targeted accounts, but these companies are charging pretty decent money.
Yeah.
And we actually used one of those companies earlier this year to try to generate leads, and
Mhm.
it didn't. I don't think we got a single qualified lead, and we paid probably like $30,000.
Yeah, it's so
And I won't say their name, but
no.
and
Yeah.
the CEO did not email me back. We were real talkative before he got my
Oh,
money,
yeah.
but the few times that I emailed him at the end of it, I couldn't get a reply. But he was probably busy. I'm sure that's what it was.
Yeah. He
So
wasn't using Superhuman. He didn't even get your email.
I think it's funny you replaced a human with a superhuman.
Yeah, and one of the things that the reason that I had to replace the human is because he's a virtual assistant. We still use him. He's in the Philippines. He's great. I mean, he does a lot of heavy lifting for us, but we have to, we abide by ITAR, and there's certain things that he can't be in, and
Yeah.
clearly my email is one of them. Once we landed an ITAR customer, I'm like, okay, we got to get you out of
Now, did you go
all this
direct to
stuff.
the Philippines for that, or did you use an agency?
An agency, and the
Because
agency
you
was
can go
great.
direct with onlinejobs.ph.
Okay.
and I posted one job up there a couple years ago. I had 300 applicants.
Holy cow.
So they're degreed people that are degreed in everything. They have their English
Hmm.
scores. There's a guy named John Jonas or Jonas something that started it, onlinejobs.ph. It's kind of like a portal.
Okay.
A lot of
Yeah, I
VAs on
used my Outdesk, and Ernesto, he's a chemical engineer. He's awesome. I mean, he
there.
just, I can give him a task, and he will do things on his own. He's full time with us, um, but he is just, I mean, he's on it. And while he's salaried 40 hours, he'll send me emails at 7, 8 o'clock at night. He's still working, which is 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning for him. They're 12 hours ahead or behind, I forget. But
Yeah.
um, we'd love them. But there are other things, and superhuman. For me, it helps me so I don't miss things, and I'm still in the early ages. I've only been using it for a week, so I may
Oh,
be
hot off
missing
the
more
press.
emails. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I have it up with my with my Outlook as well, and I'm kind of cross referencing the two, just hoping that I don't catch more errors or whatnot. So
Yeah, I do wonder. I think Google's trying to do something with Gemini as well. I don't know if that's gonna they're gonna be targeting that. I haven't
yeah,
looked at it recently, but
yeah,
now that we're talking about it, email is one of those things that I have not figured out yet.
yeah, and I hadn't either, and I love all my I like zero emails in my inbox, and I have not been able to achieve that for years.
Hmm.
And I put every email in its own folder, and I have rules written and all this stuff, and I
Oh
could still
boy.
never
Yeah.
achieve it, probably because I was so overly anal about it. And then now, like, it reads
Huh.
how I organize everything, and it just automatically puts the emails in the right folder. And
Yeah.
I hit
I
E
think I
for
think it
I'm
was when I
done. And
became a professor and we had our fourth child. We have four kids. It's
okay.
like at some point in time something broke. It was like, and now I just try to like get to zero. If I get to zero once a month, that's good for me. If I can
Yeah.
stay under 300, that's like okay. I'm not like I'm only about 6 days behind.
Well, and
So
then texts are a whole nother thing. Like, I have 203 unread text
oh
messages
yeah, I hate
because I
text.
get
I'm
so
not a
many
texter.
spam text messages. and
Yeah.
and another thing I downloaded was Cloaked, and my information had been leaked over like 2,000 times. So like 2,000 people were
Yeah.
have
Hey, if
my
you're, I
cell
guess, if
phone.
you're a sponsor and you're out there right now and you have a solution to the problem, this show needs your syndication. We
Absolutely.
will take your money
Yeah,
at
even
MFGMONKEY.
Cloaked
Yeah.
was, I signed up for that, but then it gave me a whole other list of things to do, and
Oh
you had to
yeah.
physically go do it. But fortunately, Ernesto is really good at those things, so I'm like, I forwarded everything to him, and I'm like, "Will you go, log in as me and clean all this up for me?" So I
Please.
can't make
Yeah.
I can't make him mad, or it'll go the other way. But
I'll have to check out Cloak as well.
yeah, but I was getting, and it's helped dramatically, but I was getting so many. I mean, probably could have borrowed $1 billion by now, just with all of the banks and lenders
Oh,
calling,
oh yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we'll fund you today for $10 million. It's
Oh
like,
yeah. But when you're first starting out and the banks won't give you money
mm-hmm.
and you know you asked all your friends already, and they gave you
Right,
what they could. Most of
right,
them said no,
right.
and I mean, if you're bootstrapping, I mean, obviously
Yeah,
it's nice to have a rich uncle. But I bootstrapped Bravo Team. I mortgaged my house twice,
yeah,
drained my retirement, and worked two full time jobs for 4 years.
yeah.
So when people hear that, they might think, "Oh man, this is a hard worker." But when somebody that's an investor, somebody with a lot of business experience hears it, he's like, "Boy, that guy's stupid." There's
Well, it's
probably
the
somebody out there that would have helped him with money if he had asked the right person early on. But
maybe. I
people,
mean, yeah. I mean, I'm the same way. I mean, I did everything, and my retirement is my company, and I poured all the money back into my company, and and that's my retirement,
yeah,
and that's a true entrepreneur in my eyes. It's not, and I have lots of friends, and I tease them all the time. It's like it's different than taking over dad's company or mom's company. I mean, it's already proven they're the ones that mortgaged their house twice. They're the ones that, went through all the battle to get where they are. And then now you're stepping in, it's a healthy, sustainable company. And your CFO now has a relationship with the bank, and you don't even talk to the bank anymore. Your CFO does. And you're not there pitching why you're a good company to invest in. And that's what entrepreneuring is about. Is entrepreneuring a word?
I
It
like the
is.
word.
It is
I know
now,
what you're
right?
talking about when you say it. Yeah,
But
I know what you're talking about.
yeah, but I mean that's the fun thing. And the one of our new customers, we sat and talked about that for probably 40 minutes the other day. He was driving from California back to his farm in New York, and we just talked about the war stories of starting a company. And it's fun. It's fun, it's stressful. um you could have x number of dollars one day and $0 the next, and it's it's like I was rich for 24 hours.
Man. Yeah, and we're so predictable, aren't we? It's like we get excited, we get overexcited about things, and
Yeah.
we have over dread of things that aren't that bad. Forget who's there's a TED talk about that.
Yeah.
They did a study on people, and they said uh, they were creating some art. So maybe they made, I don't know, two paintings, and
Hmm.
one group of class, they could only take one painting and they had no choice. And the other group in a different class, they could take one painting, but they had 6 months to swap it out if they wanted to.
Mm.
And of course, it's just really a psychological experiment. So they tested the two groups, and the groups that had the option to swap it out were less happy, you know, because for 6 months they're like, "Ooh, did I pick the right one?" You know. But the ones
Hmm.
that didn't have a choice, they're like, "Yeah, I made this. I'm happy. I moved on."
Hmm.
So anyway, it kind of highlights how we over project our happiness, or under project it sometimes when there's too many options, or
Yeah.
we think things could have gone one way or the other way. But in business, it's like, I mean, things go the way they go, and a lot of times we'd like them to go another way. But
Yeah.
if you're still in business, that means that's enough of the things went right,
Yeah.
and you should be
Yep.
happy for that. But if you're like me, you want them all to go right, and every
Yeah.
one of them that didn't, you remember, and
Yeah.
you're like, "Dang it, what could I have done differently?"
Yeah. And it is so true. And happiness is a mindset. And one of my neighbors. So where I live in Marblehead, 4 or 5 of my neighbors are, we all in companies, and they're like, "You're like the least stressed, happiest person I know." And I'm like, "Well, that's by design because I wasn't that way for so long." And I wear a t-shirt and a backwards hat most days in the summer. And um and I do. I watch my parents and my grandparents be so stressed out for so many years. And then the company survived through COVID when, I was like, I was so close to being bankrupt. It wasn't like I don't even know how I made it out, quite honest. But I did, and
Yeah,
I'm like, if we could make it,
no one turned off your power.
yeah, like, and as a kid, I definitely have had my gas shut off. I've had my electric shut off. I've bounced checks. I've intentionally overdrawn my checking account to pay bills. I mean, and I look back at all those things. And I'm like, God, was I an idiot, or was that just me being tenacious, and I just did what I had to do to get things done. And,
Hey,
I'm gonna
not everybody has to eat 3 meals every day. Okay, I mean,
right.
it's
Well,
okay. I mean,
yeah, and
every
during
now and
those days, I was a hell of a lot skinnier, I can promise you that,
then.
when you're eating 1 pack of ramen noodles a day because that's what you can afford. Um, but it's just, and I made the decision that I'm just going to be happy, and that's people have non-negotiables, and my one non-negotiable in life is I don't let anyone interrupt my happiness. Period. I don't
Yeah,
care who it is. Um,
yeah.
and
That's some Viktor Frankl stuff, man. You
yeah,
know, it's like saying you have agency over your own emotional response.
hmm
Boy, that, That's a strong statement you're making there. It means that, does that mean that I'm responsible if I'm a pissed off asshole all the time?
Yes. And there's another theory, money and alcohol make you just more of what you already are. If you're a pissed off asshole, you're just a rich, pissed off asshole.
Oh, well, that's good because my wife tells me when I get 2 beers in me, I turn into Santa Claus. So,
Well, there you go.
yeah,
That's not a bad thing to be.
come on over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring 2
So,
beers. It'll be a good experience for you. Yeah.
yeah. No, absolutely. Well, I've had a ton of fun today. We have a few more things that I want to talk about. What I don't want this to drag on. So let's schedule another time
Okay.
to continue this and dig into a few things. You and I can chat offline about a couple of things to dig into a little bit more. I would love if the people that are listening, if you want some direct subjects, email them in to us, leave a comment, whatever, and we can dig into those further. But I've had a ton of fun. I think you and I could have a few beers and sit up all night
Yeah.
and talk around a
Yeah. Maybe we'll do
campfire.
the next one live. Yeah.
Yeah,
In
there you go.
Ohio.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come on up. We can do it out by the campfire at night over a couple whiskeys or something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Okay. It's all scheduling. That
yeah,
sounds fun. I'm there.
well, yeah, and we can have your Chat GPT do the scheduling since you figured that out.
Oh, yeah.
Josh,
Awesome.
tell everyone how they can get a hold of you, and then it'll be in the description and all that as well, in case you're
Yeah.
driving. Yep.
Well, when you have a weird name like mine for last name, Tarbutton, I'm not too hard to find. So if that's all you remember, Tar is an asphalt button like on a shirt, you can find me. Or you go to www.bravoteam.tech. That's right. It's .tech, TECH, because I was too cheap to buy the .com. It was $8,000, but I did buy it eventually. And I still feel a little bit of remorse for it, but it's bravoteam.tech. And I also have joshuabravoteam.com, but we never moved it over because of our SEO stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. And we like helping people make stuff that they can't seem to get made other places. And we love manufacturing, and
Yeah.
we love design and helping people make stuff. And we're
Yeah.
easy to get along with.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I want to give you a call sometime next week. We'll shoot back and forth sometimes, but I would love to talk to you about that project that we're working on. So I think
Yeah. Happy to
that'd be
discuss
fun
it.
offline.
Happy to come up. I was born in Columbus. I have family up in Ohio.
Oh, that's
So
right. We talked about
kill a
that.
couple birds with one stone. So
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll get something scheduled here in the next few weeks.
awesome. Thanks, Dustin, for having
Yeah.
me.
No,
We need that.
yeah, I've been called way worse. I promise you that.
Thanks, Dustin, for having me. Really
All right, Josh.
appreciate it. Had a lot of fun. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this episode of MFG Monkey. If you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, please email them to us at info@mfgmonkey.com.